Welcome back, everyone. This is the Real Improvement Show with Gus and Dave. And this one in particular, you do not want to miss. This is such an important topic, and we're going to have a fire episode for you.
Yeah.
That said, we are joined by the one and only Dan Deist.
Yes.
The president, founder, CEO.
Bring it in. Bring it in. What, is this one? Are they overlaying? Right. We won't hear it now, but the clapping is overlay.
That's right.
Yes. Of top to bottom services.
Yes.
Amongst other companies as well, but we'll stick to top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. Just don't Google that, by the way. If, you learn things later when you start businesses, right? Yep. I was like, I had this vision of top to bottom services. We can do it all, right? I used to do trash outs for Allen. We did it all, right? Yep. And then as you become popular, people shorten the name. They're like, oh, use top to bottom.
Yep.
So then people started Googling top to bottom. Don't.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Don't Google that. Okay?
Don't do that.
Don't do it. So Google top to bottom services.
That's right. You gotta be really careful, especially in today's day and age, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
It's definitely an entertaining website.
That's it.
So,
That's it.
Lord.
Dan, we are so glad to have you, man. For those that know me and what I do, Dan his company has been an instrumental part in my business because of what he does, because of the services his company provides. So it's truly great to have you here and be able to chat with you for a little while. Tell us a little bit about how you got to top to bottom services, right? Let's start there, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, sure. My background is in operations, so I didn't swing a hammer and all that kind of stuff, which is traditional for a home inspection company. The founder is generally a person that's done GC work or handyman work or whatever.
Sure.
I came from a different projection. Right. I came from the security side.
Wow.
I work for a company called Fiserv Securities, not Pfizer, the drug company, Fiserv, the clearing firm, right? And my job there, I was vice president. It's a Fortune 500 company. It's a great company. It's a great stock. You should buy it, quite honestly. And
Insider trading.
Yeah, insider trading there, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, it might have sold higher when I left. I don't know.
Right.
But so my job there was we were just breaking into the industry when it came to touch tone and voice recorded speech activated trading. So buy 100 shares of IBM, it would recognize your voice and you would place these trades, right? And we started seeing the competition in there from Charles Schwab, and we started seeing the E-Trades of the world all coming up, getting on this thing, internet, right?
Yeah.
So then we were like, okay, well now people aren't using the phones anymore. Like, what are we going to do? We had to do this internet thing, and they wanted me to move to Philadelphia, was their headquarters. I was across the street from Clapper Road.
Oh wow!
940 Clapper Road was our data center, and they wanted me to move to Philly to spearhead this online venture to go after Schwab's and the E-Trades. And I entertained it. My wife, Marican, we drove up there and got wined and dined, although I was already in the company, but it was a whole nother thing. So they were bringing out the bells and whistles. And I wasn't really feeling it. I was, young, had the education, had the work experience. And I was like, what else is there? So I hired a executive recruiter, and they flew me around North Carolina. We went to Tennessee. We went all these different states looking to see opportunities for me, and there was plenty there, and something in the back of my head just kept saying, you have time for that. What do you really want to do? And I was like, I kind of want to work for myself. So I was in my suit at my dentist's office, Dr. Stiles, I still remember him, over in the Kentlands. I think he's at the Kentlands now, and I'm thumbing through an Entrepreneur magazine in 2003, and it said up and coming businesses, home inspections.
Nice.
And I went, I could build something. I could learn that, and then I could build something, and I could replicate it.
Wow.
And let's do that. And so I went home, and I said, Marican, I've got a job. We're not taking that one, and we're going to start our own thing. And at first, it was shocking when I had to pick her up the floor, pouring water on her face to wake her up. But after I got past the initial shock, she was completely fine. Didn't speak for a while, but no, she was great.
And after that, with a slur. Right?
Yeah, exactly. She was a little dazed. She was like, whoa. But she's great. And she said, well, Dan, you're going to do this. Don't tippy-toe. Go all in.
That's right. Yep.
And so I hung up. I literally took back in the day, they would give what they called golden parachutes, not handcuffs, with different.
Yeah.
That's a marketing term for keeping your employees. We can talk about that and what we do to keep our team with 401k and things like that. But they do these parachutes where they would give these executives money to go away so they wouldn't go and compete with them and things like that. So I took that money as seed and started top to bottom.
That's awesome.
So, and here we are now, and that spawned these different businesses. It spawned a sign business. It spawned a mold business. It spawned a software business side to side, and it's also created an opportunity for me to do coaching, which I really, really enjoy. I was discovered in this coaching program, and now I'm the lead coach for a thing called IGO Community. Wow. We just got back from San Diego, where we're working with companies all the way from Elite, who is $14 million. And we have people that are just figuring out what to put on their name tag, so get the whole thing. And I love it. It fills me up because I'm a server, and I just love it. And I love giving and teaching, and it's fun for me.
Amazing. That's awesome. So what is top to bottom exactly? What do you guys specialize in?
So we specialize in saving people's lives.
Love it.
I'm going to start with that. Yep. We do home inspections.
Yeah, that's,
okay.
There's a bit of truth to that.
Yeah, exactly. In that elevator speech, boom. But we do residential and commercial inspection services in the whole gamut. So someone's buying a home and they're looking to purchase, or they're buying a building and they're trying to figure it out. Different needs, different audiences, but then we also provide all those ancillary services that you would need. So if you're buying a house, you might be interested in asbestos or mold or VOC or sprinklers or level 2 chimneys. We do it all. So essentially, top to bottom, any type of a commercial or residential, we handle that right over here in Gaithersburg.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So, Dave and I had an episode not too long ago, and we were discussing the market currently in 2022. And one of the things that Dave continued to say is that market is bananas.
And so that's a nice way to say it.
Right?
Well, I figured I was on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about
you said something different to Faith, but
you should hear me in the office.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's talk about the banana of a market in your industry. What are you guys seeing? What do you think?
We've navigated these before, Gus, but this one right now is just so interesting. We came out of COVID, coming out of COVID. It's a stretch.
Sure.
We're still hopefully getting everything better, but believe it or not, we had a great year when COVID came out. I don't know. I mean, everyone was swinging for the fences and everything worked.
Yep.
Right now, what we're seeing right now is just this. I don't want to say anomaly because I've seen 08. We've done a lot of these things before, but this is fairly interesting because the prices are going through the roof like crazy.
For sure.
Low inventory like crazy.
For sure.
And the restrictions being put upon potential buyers and even sellers for that matter, like, hey, you have to do this. If you're a seller, you got to do this kind of stuff. It's like the seller's got to do, buyers got to do. It's crazy. I mean, we do have what I like to refer to as the canary in a coal mine, right? The old story, you had the canary and then he dies, there's obviously an off gas, right? So we have ours, which is our sign business. So we have if Dave's got a listing, we're installing it. So I can see my dashboard. I can see how many listings are coming through. And when those numbers are not high, it's a quick tell that my inspection company is going to be having the same challenge. So we're seeing tons of people waiving inspections and things like that. So we've been really having to shift and look at different sales verticals and opportunities to serve our clients that we hadn't had to do before.
So before we get into that, right, we're talking about the market, right? Jumping back into that, you mentioned buyers waiving inspections, right? We're seeing that a lot.
Yeah.
You also mentioned from the very beginning, your company is in business to save lives, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to talk about that for just a second, right? And how that's impacting people. They're not doing these inspections, right? So there's got to be some level of importance to still having that done because of what you may uncover during these processes, right?
Yeah.
So touch on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is that, when I first started thinking this, I had to frame myself like, why am I doing this? And I want to make a difference. And so I remember having my first employee, and after our first meeting, I was like, all right, break, let's go save lives, right? And this guy's looking at me like, this dude's a lunatic, right? So I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I just got out of Internachi, and that we're not saving lives, we're not paramedics.
Right.
But in my mind, I was like, we got to go out there. We have to have a mission. We got to do it for a purpose, not a paycheck. And so there are opportunities out there where you have gas leaks, you have vent problems, it's a reality and people don't really want to talk about it. because they think it's going to be expensive or whatever. But then we get Gus in there; it's not that big of a deal, right?
Sure.
But you have that thing there, and there's been times. I mean, right now, look at some of the laws that are influenced. We have the fire alarm and the carbon monoxide laws right now, and that is the poor gentleman who died in Rockville, coming home with a Prius, and he comes in with the Prius, opens the garage door, parks the car, lowers the garage door. It's on battery. He's not hearing anything. Goes to bed. The car kicks on to charge the battery.
Yep.
And now we're putting smoke detectors. So it's like, there's all these things. And we had one where we did an inspection, and I told the lady, and Dave knows, last thing you want to do is kill a deal or be known as that or not communicate the right way.
There's a right way to do it.
Right. And I just remember one time in a house, and I said, I'm looking through a chase, and I said, your vent stack is disconnected. You're pumping carbon monoxide into that top floor. And agent didn't want to hear about it. No one wanted to hear about it. The agent got very upset, the selling agent, and who happened to be there. And I said, this is an issue for your buyer when they come back. They asked, I'm very political, so I was able to navigate it. But I was like, all right, I'll just go off to the side. You call the gas company. You tell them what it is. Gas company came out into D.C., Put the sticker right on the door and shut it down. Yep. So it happens, how often? Not frequently, but it's enough where you got to have that mindset.
Well, now also in Montgomery County, for example, one of the hot buttons is radon, right? I mean, sellers have to do a radon test and provide the results to a buyer if the buyer doesn't want to do their own per the terms of the contract, right? So, I mean, I know you guys do a lot of radon testing.
Yeah, we do a lot of radon testing, and I wish they would have involved some of the people in the writing of that law, because they didn't write it, and it went through several iterations of that law, because it just wasn't communicated clearly. And right now there's still that void there where the seller, correct me if I'm wrong, if I remember correctly, the seller can do it themselves and offer, but it doesn't actually show what they have to do. So you have to don't prove that they've done it correctly.
It's interesting. As far as I know, my recollection is they simply just have to provide the results of the test.
Right. So you could take
whether they do a Home Depot test or call Dan.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It doesn't matter, right?
And take the Home Depot test and put it in the freezer and shut the door. And
right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So they don't. So there's that. So So radon's definitely out there. But
it's a shame. It's sad and it's interesting at the same time.
Yeah.
So there is a perception that at times real estate. This is nothing, and I know how you guys operate. I know you're very, very reputable, both of you. But
although I didn't wear my tie today, like some.
Yeah. I know.
Is there?
I heard there's going to be beer here, and I was like, I don't know. That's okay. Good.
So is there any truth to a real estate agent having a good enough relationship with the home inspector to where they just, brush a lot of things under the carpet just for that deal not to settle properly?
I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I certainly have some thoughts on that as well.
I've been hearing this for the longest time, and I really want to hear from somebody like you.
Yeah.
Well, I could be wrong, but I would think that you might be hearing that from people that either they don't have a great relationship with the realtor, right? So they already have a little bit of resentment. They think that they're out there for the check, right? I would think that could be where this conversation is coming from. But the way I look at it is there's great companies out there, like Top to Bottom and other great companies out there that do really good home inspections. And then you got some less than par.
Sure.
And then you got some people that they're not even playing golf. They're not even par. They're like horrible. They're in the parking lot. They can't even get the car door open.
Right.
And the same thing with the realtors. What I've experienced in my now going on 16 years is that you still have those core individuals that are really a cut above the realtors, right? Yeah. And they understand that this is a long play.
Yeah.
This relationship is a long play. Right. So instead of saying, let me go ahead and do the search engine optimization, let me go get these keywords and hit all this stuff and get these one and done transactions, they're going, how do I hold this person? Right. And they know they hold this person by giving them excellent advice. Right. Part of that advice is getting them with advisors that can help them. A great remodeling company like Gus. Right. So they're going to be like, hey, Alan, who do you use for your remodeling? Oh, I only use Gus, right? They don't. The person at the other end receiving that information doesn't go like, oh, he's probably getting a cutback. He's getting kickback from Gus. No, they're thinking, well, he must do good, right? And I think what's happening now is, thankfully, a lot of these teams are starting to say, let's gravitate to an inspector that does great work, can communicate clearly the situation, so that we can navigate the transaction without having all the air come out of this thing, right?
Right.
And still not have that apparent conflict of interest, is what you're alluding to, is that I'm in cahoots with Dave. So, hey, let's don't talk about the grading issue. Let's don't talk about the buckling of the floor over there, because they'll probably put a couch on it. They won't even see it.
Right.
Let's get the transaction done.
Yep.
Right. I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure. I suspect that does exist, but that's why you want to work with reputable companies. Sure. I mean, we're like, I think right now we have over 4,000, 5,000 star reviews online.
Wow.
So you got to look somewhere where we know, and I think our industry is really unique. I was talking about this today. I was on another presentation today, and I was like, home inspections for the least dollar amount hold this interesting piece of the puzzle, this entire transaction. And we got to make everybody happy, satisfied, and served well, right?
Yep.
And we have to make sure that we're paying attention to the realtor that's brought us an opportunity to serve their client. Then we got to make sure we serve our client. Correct. So we got our customer, and then we have our client.
That's right.
Right. And so we're doing both. And we, at top to bottom, do have a list of realtors that we won't work with.
Yeah.
I've gotten a text before from, John Overholzer, she's telling me to say this, and I'm like, that's not going to work. Okay. So stick it right up on there. So that does happen, but I think that now more and more people are seeing the power of the referral, and they're not looking to burn that road.
I think some of that comes with, it comes with experience or lack thereof, right? There are agents, we talked about this bananas market, right?
Right.
This is the type of market where we start to see a lot of people come into the real estate industry because they think it's going to be a quick check. It's going to be a quick commission.
Right.
And they're looking to do whatever they can to save that deal.
Right.
I think the vast majority of realtors out there are honest, hardworking, ethical people. I
agree.
But you're going to have that group of people, right? And I think that people like Dan and your company, right? You're, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? I look at you guys as a source of information, right? Mm-hmm. You guys come out, and your job is to provide as much information as you can about, for example, the condition of this home,
right,
so that the buyer of that home is making an educated decision.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, it's not up to you or me to determine whether this house is livable, not livable, whether it's a good fit, not a good fit. It's our job to put as much information in front of these people as we possibly can. So when they do make that decision, it's from a standpoint of being educated, not ignorance.
Right. Yeah. I push the charge neutral approach. We're not going to overstate something and really be negative about it, and we're not going to be overly positive like, this is the best cherry house I've ever seen. We're just going to be right in that neutral zone where we can come and say, let me help you assess potential risk. I always tell my guys, make sure you point out some great stuff, because they need to know about it. Right. You're looking at your stock portfolio, you need to know when the company's doing some good stuff and when it's doing some less than great stuff.
You got to have the feel good, right? I mean,
exactly. So you gotta walk that thing. It's an interesting mix for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. How important is the home inspections?
Oh, they're not important.
It's not necessary.
So let me rephrase. I know it's mandatory in a lot of cases, and it's for people's peace of mind.
Right.
What I've found from my experience is that a lot of homeowners don't even know how to read that inspection report.
Right.
There's some truth to that.
Yeah, there is some truth to that.
So do you guys, after you finish your inspection, do you go around and you explain, what every item means to homeowners, or should an inspector explain everything that's on the inspection report?
The answer is they should be able to articulate it in a way if asked specifically. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it's the role of the inspector to communicate everything articulately perfectly when they're there, but they should be approachable later, because there's just too much information. And I think we've all done that, where we have a great meeting with somebody and then you go home and you rethink about it. Right. But if I were to just continue inundating you with tons of information, you're only going to collect at 10%. So why am I jamming it down your throat? Mm-hmm. Just get the highlights, get the high points, touch on those things, read the report, get together with Dave, your realtor, see what that looks like, follow up with some phone calls. And that's how it should be done, quite honestly, because if I try to, I mean, Gus, you're out doing an estimate for remodeling job. You're like, hey, I got to do the subfloor. We got to bring some plumbing in here. Hey, by the way, I noticed you got a little polybutylene. We're going to move that out. We're going to put some CPVC in here. And I'm getting some of that, and then I start losing it. Yep. So you should be available later for me to call you back and say, hey, your rough-in was this, and this is this. What's the difference?
Right. Yep.
Right.
100%.
But if you give it all to me, then I'm
well, not only that, but not everything is important to every person, right? I mean, everybody's got their hot buttons and the things that scare them, or the thing that they want to know more about,
right?
And so, yeah, I mean that makes total sense.
I mean,
absolutely.
I think everyone would agree if you were buying a used car, you'd want to have a mechanic look at it.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Right. So it's like, hey, I'm buying a house. Why wouldn't I want someone to look at it?
100%.
That someone that does not have a vested interest.
Yep.
So what do you recommend then? Kind of switching gears a little bit, I guess. What do you recommend then? You would have a mechanic look at it.
Yep.
We're seeing, we've mentioned before, we're seeing home inspections being waived, right? We're seeing appraisals being waived too, but we're seeing home inspections being waived. What do you recommend for that purchaser, right? They want the house. They're fighting for the house. Inventory's, in the toilet, right? So they're just clamoring over everything they can get. They waive the home inspection so they can get the deal. What should they do from an inspection standpoint then? Right? I mean, should they still have one at some point?
Yeah, I totally think you should. You never want to go through life without having a physician take a look at you in your entirety and make recommendations saying, hey, your knees hurt, let's go over there. You're getting some headaches, let's go over there. Mm-hmm. You look to these practitioners to help guide you to make sure you have a healthy and safe life. Mm. We're the same way.
Yeah.
We're generalists. So not to have us is you're really short-sighted yourself on that, because you might end up spending money when you didn't really need to spend it, where it should have been invested over here to make, not only the property value exceed, but also safety concerns. There's a lot there. So what we always say is that, listen, I get it. You got to go in without these home inspections. I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I get it, right? Yeah. So now what you should do is have an inspection company come back after you settle and have us go in. Yeah. Now, some realtors, they might come back and the hair in their neck starts kind of starts sticking up a little bit. And they're like, the first thing they might say is, oh, well, now you're going to go in there and you're going to find out that there's a roof leak, and then there's a cracked truss, and then there's this and there's that, and there's buyer remorse, right? And then they're going to be, then they're going to go after the realtor and say, like, you sold me a lemon, right? In reality, that's going to happen. The potential of that happening is a reality, right? Sure. So even if you didn't have inspected and the roofing guy comes out, because you're looking at your shingles, you're like, I think I need a new roof. And then they say, hey, you got cracked trusses and you got this and it's going to be this much. You're still going to go after the realtor and say, like, why didn't you tell me this stuff, right? Yep. But it's not their responsibility.
It's not.
Right? So by us going in after, we can help manage that expectation. David that's not his goal. His goal was to make sure that you were aware of a home inspection opportunity, that you understood that you were waiving it, what that meant, and I got you in a great home at a great price that fit your budget that you can afford, right? And you feel comfortable about. That's a blessing from him. Yep. Now he's smart enough to have us come in and say, all right, now we see some other things. Now, let's handle this. Let's look at these at priority. Yeah, you got a cracked truss. Yes, let's have that taken a look at, but it's not as scary as it may sound. Sure. You know that, right? Yeah. So, and then, you got this reverse polarity over here. Let me show you how to open that up and flip those wires around. Mm-hmm. There's things that we can do to help that and make more value, deliver more value to the realtor's client that is now at this thing. Because the realtors, they want to make sure that they know that they're continuously giving to their client, because they want that client to call them back. They want all that added value. So then they can say, like, hey, use these guys. I'm giving you more value. I'm helping protect you. Even if they find something, we got a network of great talent. Right. They can do these at discounted rates or whatever it is. So to waive it is one thing. To not use it at all is being neglectful.
Yeah. I agree.
You're opening yourself up for a serious issue.
I agree.
Yeah.
How often should a home inspector be conducted? throughout
in a house in the house time.
Yeah, I mean, most people you think they don't really think about home inspection until they list the house.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you this: I not the house I'm in now, the house I was in prior to this one. I mean, I had a home inspection when I bought the house, and that was it. That was the last time I had a home inspection in that house, right?
That's
kind of what you're getting at, right?
Every homeowner.
Right,
So
right.
In your opinion, should it happen more often?
I think rental properties should be done more frequently because things are intentionally hidden, right? Because if Dave has a couple rental properties, say the person renting wants to get their money back,
Sure.
So they're gonna do some things to make sure it looks good that they get their rental. So if I had a rental property, I would be doing it annually. Just even if the people are in the house, I would just say, hey, we're doing our maintenance inspection. They're going to come in and we're going to do it. The tenant's going to love it.
Yep.
They're going to like, wow, Dave definitely he cares about the property. I'm not just a paycheck to him, right? So, and he's going to save money in the long run because you're maintaining it.
Sure.
I mean, I tell my son all the time, dude, you got to change the oil in the truck, man. Right. It's like you don't wait until the engine seizes.
That's right.
You know?
You hear this weird clunking.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God. So,
Right.
So it's the same idea. So that would be one path. The path also, I would think every few years, if you have a parent, an elderly person in a home, you should have it inspected, especially if you're out of state.
How often?
So I'm thinking every 5 years you should have every 5 years. I go and I remember we just lost my father, but before he left, he goes, Dan, we got to do our next inspection so that mom knows what she's got to do. Like we can get this all set up. So I went out and I did the inspection in the house, and we're just tweaking everything up, and it gave him peace of mind. Because he wasn't going to be there, that everything was taken care of, because things do get away from you.
Sure.
And what people tend to do in homes and in their cars and in any tool that they have, they know that the car pulls to the left when it drives.
That's right.
And they just deal with it. Yep. And then they just know that the tires are getting bald on that side, but they're like, whatever, So, and then the people walking up the stairs, they go, oh yeah, I know when that furnace kicks on, it sounds like Elmo screaming, it's like, so but that always does that, it's like, well, it's because it's broken,
Right.
So if we had someone to go in, we would get past those nuances that you think is normal living and say, this is a sign of a potential problem and try to save you money.
Yeah. I mean, I asked that because unfortunately with a lot of homeowners, they just tend to be very reactive, whereas a home inspection gives them an opportunity to be proactive and plan for the future.
Right.
Like you take your car, we use that analogy to get an oil change done, but they actually they do a full inspection on the car. They call it like 50 point or whatever it is. And they come back and, they say, hey, Mr. Deist, you need this and this and this and this.
Right.
Called Mr. Deist? That's weird.
And I get 51 points, not 50. My guy's better.
You got to introduce me.
That's right.
Right? And then it's up to you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same thing should apply to homes. I feel like a homeowner should be more aware of what's going on because let's say somebody with a leaky roof, they're only going to take care of that problem. They're not going to have an opportunity to plan for future, like, for example, GFI, in the kitchen, in the right places, which wasn't necessarily the code years ago, but it is now.
Right.
And I'm sure there's many other
there's
things.
tons of them.
Right.
Yep.
So,
I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? I think that people, I agree, first of all, they should do it, right? I mean, I just admitted I never did it, and I should, right? But
Right.
I think that one reason why people maybe don't do that is the upfront cost of something like an inspection, right? An inspection is not, a $50 thing where these guys come in.
Sure.
I think that they look at this, to your point, it's like out of sight, out of mind, right? These are things that we live with and deal with every day, so it's no big deal, right?
Right.
Well, now I'm going to pay X number of dollars to be told that it is, in fact, actually a problem. Whereas if I don't spend that money, or maybe I don't have that money to spend, it's still, it's almost like coming from a place of ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And one of the things that crowning moments I really liked. You remember Carol Schwantz?
Sure.
Carol Schwantz,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
two things. One with Carol, and then another one with the roof one. And this is an example, Gus, of where you don't have to use a home inspector to do a home inspection of all services. You could have them come in if you were questioning a particular thing. So if you're wondering about this particular system or component, have them look at that and see if they're spending their money correctly. And here's a perfect example. We had Carol Schwantz, who I thought was just amazing. We lost her, I don't know how many years.
Quite a few years ago.
Yeah. So great woman, great realtor, always looking out for her client. She called me one time. This was just a friend's house, but it happened to be a realtor. She had my number. And she's like, hey, my friend's getting an estimate to do waterproofing in her basement because they were saying that there's water coming into her basement, and it's astronomically expensive. It was something like $20,000-$30,000, right? So we're like, she's like, will you come over and take a look at it? So Matthew Kaufman, I think you know Matthew Kaufman. He's our inspector manager. The guy's amazing. So Matthew and I get in the car, and we're like, yeah, we'll just come over for a freebie. We'll just go over there. So we go over, and we're talking beautiful house, just absolutely stunning. Down in the basement, they had all this wood shelving and a bar built in. I mean, just absolutely amazing. Nice. And I said, so where did they say they saw the moisture? As I'm flipping through the estimate. And on the estimate, it was talking about masonry block, right? It was talking about effervescence, all these signs and these cues. Yeah. So they were like, oh, well, it's behind this wall, which we couldn't see. So they're talking about taking this down. I said, well, do you have any of the foundation visible? And he's like, oh, there's a little closet over here. It's got our sump pump in it. I said, great. As soon as I open it up, poured concrete. Completely different foundation than what this person has said on this document. Wow. Then I'm looking and I'm going, there is no effervescence on this wall whatsoever. So I go over and I'm like, it's definitely been wet. I could see that this has been wet. There's someone over. I said, did they go outside at all? And they said, no, they were just, they're foundation people. I'm like, okay. So I go outside. Matthew's upstairs. I go out. I climb underneath the deck. I do the old G.I. Joe crawl. The Army crawl underneath there. And underneath there, I see a downspout that has now clearly been discharging, been disconnected from its extension right against the house. It's created this. Literally, it was about 3 feet deep. This was like a moon crater, right? It's just been going and going and going. And over all the years, it finally got down to a path where it came in with a joint where you had the slab poured in the wall. Yep. And on heavy rain days, and it couldn't dissipate everywhere else, it would find its way in there. And so there was an extension already there. I said, hey, get some mulch bags and stuff like that. And they said, yeah. It's like Matthew's pushing mulch bags underneath, and I just dropped some bags in there to keep the thing on. Yep. And I said, put the extension on, and I go, I think we're problem solved. I think we're good here. And we went inside.
So you only build them 10,000.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So then we went inside and we said, this is the situation. And she's like, well, I got this contract. And I said, well, in Maryland, you got the lemon law.
That's right.
Right. So we said, go ahead and call them. Yep. So we stood there, Matthew Kaufman and I stood there in the woman's kitchen as she called, and you could hear, and we were coaching her. It was like this, like right now, guys. That's us, and this is her. And she's like turning it so we can hear. And he's like, oh, you sure you want that? There's a big problem. You probably got this and that, and really hammering this poor woman. And we were there encouraging her, like, come on, you can do this. You can cancel this contract.
That's right.
They canceled and saved all that money.
Wow.
Then we had one where we went to a roofing issue where the husband, the elderly couple in Olney, they found this on some website for Olney neighborhood.
Right.
And they said, if you need a good inspection, call. This said inspection. So they didn't even think home inspection. They thought inspection. So they had us come out and take a look at this roof because the guy was suspicious about the new roof. They painted his shingles.
Get out of here.
Oh, my goodness.
100%.
What?
Painted it.
Oh, my goodness.
So we went up there. We said, they said they had done he got this bid for all this truss work in his attic. It's like, oh, your rafters are bunt here. Your buttress plates are all bad. There was all this work and the shingles. None of it.
Wow.
None of it.
Wow.
They posted onto that same site saying these guys running around the neighborhood and just looking at these people and just taking advantage of the situation.
That's crazy.
So you can have us come in and just inspect certain things. And then we've also had the contrary where they're not sure and we come out and they did do a great job. The contractor did a good job, but they're just like, I just want to make sure, so it's like, hey, it looks good. Everything's great.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, I assume if you're doing a product or area specific inspection, that costs a little less than a full home inspection, right?
Right.
I just want to make sure that the viewers understand that. And
can we
it's generally,
we normally do. Yeah, we do our pricing for our home inspections. If we're doing a traditional home inspection, based on the square footage, right? Okay. And any of the ancillary services, our run of the mill home inspection, say it's 3,000 square feet. We're probably in that 600 range to 550, 600. Right. If you're having us coming out for one-offs, it's generally an hourly inspection. We do 175 on those ones typically. Yeah. If we're just looking at the AC unit.
Sure.
If we're doing walk-in talks where we're doing those, looking at 5 things before settlement, that's a slightly different price. I believe I'm looking off mic, I think that's like $325. I got Tyler Angela here in our marketing department. He keeps me straight on those. He's nodding, so that was the right number.
Yeah. We should give him the heads.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, here you go. He made sure he's like, make sure you don't call me on that.
You mentioned
put a stool right next to him. Next time.
He's piping in right here. He's piping in right here.
You mentioned the term walk-in talk, right? I want to touch on that for a second. You've done this for your company.
I skip too. I skip, run, jog, and walk. So I just want to make sure.
Talk?
At the same time.
Can you chew gum?
No.
Okay.
No. But I do this.
There you go. I don't do that. We talk about again leading back into buyers' waived inspections and things like that, right? Talk a little bit about that. There have been instances where, and I know of other companies that do it as well, but your company has come out for several of my clients, for example, and done these like pre-offer walk-in talks, right?
Right.
And the reason for that is because one, it's less time. I think you mentioned it's about an hour, right? Whereas a normal full-on home inspection could take
2.5 to
3 hours, right?
Right.
But the issue with that is sellers don't want buyers in the house for that period of time, especially in COVID times and all that. I swear I'm getting to a point here. With the walk-in
I think he just went around this way. He's coming around.
and I'm coming back. He'll get there. Here it goes. We can edit that, right? With the walk-in talk, I found that to be important because it allows buyers to get a handle on some of the things that are more important to them.
Right.
It costs them a little bit less money. You're there for about an hour. Talk about that for a second and what you're seeing.
Well, one of the things that, my background, the operations is, my dad always taught me if you do something twice, it should be a process, right? So when we talk, I actually hired him to consult with me when I was growing my business to say, how can I continue to have sustainable growth? Mm-hmm. And after he interviewed everybody, the clients, he said, clone yourself. The way you say things, say it the same way. The way you dress, wear the same way. The report, everything is the same. They're buying you, right? So I said, okay, great. So how do I do that? Well, part of my driveway script used to be, hey, Gus, is there anything extra you want me to spend particular time on? And he's heard our guys say this all the time. And generally what you say on those ones is you go, no, that's why I have you here, right? Or they'll say, there was a little squeak in the back bedroom left corner, 2 inches from the downspout of the, it's like very specific, right?
Yep.
And then the third one is they just pull stuff up. They go, no, I was really interested in just like the roof, the plumbing, the air conditioning, and they just start listing a home inspection, right? So you got all 3 of these things. So what we said was, they're doing that all out of they're nervous. Sure. They're already under a high tension, high pressure situation. So we said, why don't we just get that out of the way and to say, hey, why don't we do a walk and talk and we'll focus on the 5 main things that you need to worry about. We're going to look at your heating system. We're going to look at your cooling system. We're going to look at the water heater. We're going to look at your foundation. We're going to look at your roof. Right. If we have any more time during that time, we'll look at these things. But those are the ones that are going to be a high ticket price. You don't care right now if I check to see if that has reverse polarity or the faucet drips. Right. Let's get to the meat. Right.
Love it.
So we just go right to that, and people are so much better on that one. And Gus, you had asked me earlier, do you follow up on those ones? A lot of times, yes, because the clients aren't coming to those ones in some cases. So we'll go in and we'll look at all of them and we'll just get on the phone with them and we'll do a FaceTime. We'll say, hey, good to see you. These are your 5 things. This is what we saw, right? Yeah. We still hold a little risk there because we're going it so much faster, right? So we're quickly looking at the age. We're looking, does it look neglected? Does it appear, there's so much things that we have to process so quickly, so rapidly that we still have an exposure there. So optimally, we want to go back to really do a good one. We've all been there where you talk to somebody and like, oh, at first glance, they call you, Gus, and, hey, I need a bathroom. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they're thinking, oh, it's a toilet and a sink. What can it be? Absolutely. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, well, you got a lot. There's a lot there. So so just getting that quick touch, those 5 things, those walk-in talks, does give a little bit of peace of mind.
And I found that it allows people, to write these offers with a little bit of that peace of mind to maybe write them without that home inspection contingency.
Right.
Again, I'm just going to go on. I've said this 1,000 times. I think home inspections are one of the most important things that you can do. So much so that even GCAR, the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, now has a document that if you are waiving your inspection, you have to initial on a line on this addendum indicating that you're doing it of your own free will and you understand there could be potential adverse consequences for doing so.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It's that important. But there are people that are competing. There are people that are not going to do inspection. So maybe that walk and talk is a good.
Yeah, the walk and talk's a great one, and then they get the exposure, and then we go back and we do have a program right now called Buyer's Corner. And that's when you'd call in if you use us for a walk and talk, and then we give them a 30% discount on what they would have cost for a full inspection, because we've already been there. They already have that trust with us, so we pass that savings on, and then so that walk and talk definitely gives that peace of mind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. So since you do your focus on those 5 things, how do you prioritize? Obviously, all of those things are high dollar items.
They are, and there really isn't an order in that. So it's because we are. I mean, there's been times where the listing agent is outside, and it's almost like a stopwatch. They're like,
now we're
go. Yeah. And as we come out, the next guy from ProTech or whatever is sitting there going, high five my guy as his guy's coming in, So another great company out there, but it's so fast. So what we try to do is really set the expectations. All the coaching I've ever done, I always say every argument, I don't care if it's with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your business partner, your client, whatever, it's all about expectations. You thought you were going to be home at dinner for 7, you weren't there, there's an argument, So setting the expectation, saying, hey, listen, when we go in there, I'm not going to be able to have you grab my collar and point me at this something over there, because I'm going to look at those 5 things. If I have it after, then fine. But the game plan is we're going to get in there. I'm going to look at the roof real quick. I'm going to beeline it downstairs, because that's where most likely your heating stuff is, and your foundation, I can see all that, and your water heater. And then I'm going to come out when we're getting later to that time of when they're looking for the hook to pull you out of there. I'll be on the outside of the house, and I can look at your compressor. So it's kind of like one of those kind of things.
Yeah. And how should the homeowner prioritize in case 2 or 3 items of those things need to be addressed? Start from the top or the bottom?
They're gonna do all. We're gonna look at them all, and they need to. That's why you would work. One of the things I always tell in our script is say, we're not here to tell you anything has to be fixed.
That's right.
He's heard it so many times, right?
Yeah,
I could probably say it.
Yeah, you probably could say our script, because we're not there to tell you anything has to be fixed. That's why the realtor, and in my script I even say, gesture towards the realtor, right? So
but even we're not there to tell you what needs to be fixed, right?
But you know the contract.
Yeah, right.
Right. So it could be an as-is contract, could be whatever. So we're just going like, let me just show you, Gus, like what we got, what you have. You take a look at it, digest it, call me with questions, read the addendum, read the entire report, not just the addendum, and then get with your realtor and then circle back with us. Generally, by the time they go through all that, they're feeling pretty good about it. And our reports are a narrative style. So it's not a point click, like inspected, not inspected, whatever. Yeah. Ours is a narrative style. You have this, and we recommend this, and this is what you got over here. So it's kind of like a story a little bit.
Right. No, I'm, in terms of homeowners tackling one project a year, that's how most people do it.
Right.
Or at least budget, and then, they take care of them one at a time. Again, with them being high dollar items, it's hard to tackle more than once or more than 1 or 2 off that list. Do you feel that they should start with the foundation or with the roof?
Water is the biggest culprit for damage. More so, people always ask, do you want a slow drip or you want a termite coming into your property? You want the termite over the slow drip. That's right. Right? Yep. So first do the roof and foundation for sure. Get the 100%. Envelope. Get the envelope good, and then everything else can be addressed once you're outside of that.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
I was curious to see your take on that, but that's exactly how I feel about it too.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Well, good stuff. I mean, I think I really do appreciate you guys having us come in here and talk about it. And I'd like to say more jokes next time, but because
and I know you're very limited with time. You're a very busy man. Would love to do this again.
I will tell you that this will hopefully not be the last time we have Dan Deist on. I think that he's got so much more information that we just could not even possibly cover. I will tell you, for whatever it's worth, my takeaway on this episode, aside from all of the fun that we've obviously had, is home inspection, no matter when you do it, is so important. If you're not going to do it, prior to writing an offer, if you're not going to do it as a contingency on your offer, do it after you've bought your home. Get the information so that this way you know what's going on with this insanely expensive investment that you've just purchased. Get the home inspection. I have a preference as to when you do it, just for your own safety and peace of mind. But if you're not going to do it as a contingency of the contract, just do it. Find a time, find a way, get that home inspection done.
Yeah. And I would love to give one more nugget if I can.
Absolutely.
Of course. And this goes out to the people that I'm all for solid relationships.
Yep.
being married, the whole thing. I married up for sure. There's no doubt about that. I did big time. And I always say, thanks for marrying me. She always says, thanks for not finning it up. Right. So I'm like, I know. Right. Like, okay. So I'm like right along there. Mm-hmm. But here's something that people don't think about using in this industry is when, a marriage is breaking down, and they have gone through therapy. They've done everything they possibly can, which is I preach that too. To do all that first. Sure. That's most important. But the bottom line is when there is a divorce, typically it comes down to the assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the assets is your home. The other is your vehicles, and then you got your stocks and your bonds and everything like that. A lot of cases, the female is getting the home with the kids or whatever, just how it just works out that way.
Sure.
She might not be aware of all the things that need to be done in that house. So what they do, the attorney will look and say, let's get it appraised and let's go off the appraisal price. Mm-hmm. So if the appraise is for $750,000, then we got $750,000 in stocks. Jimmy, you take that. Jane, you take the house, and we'll call it even.
Right.
Then we go in and we find out the roof has got to be replaced. It's got asbestos. It's got mold. It's got whatever. So if you know anybody in that situation and they're thinking about that and they're wondering about that type of relationship, they should definitely have it inspected so we can really find out, is it worth $600,000 or is it appraised at $600,000 and you're going to have to put like another $100,000 into it?
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's because if she turns around and wants to sell that thing and it has polybutylene in it, that's going to be an eye opener.
Yep.
Yeah, could be for sure.
Yep. So there you go.
Absolutely.
If people want to reach your company, how do they get you?
Smoke screens are best. Hot air balloons would be second.
Okay.
Right. Carrier pigeon is rough because the window
just go wherever they want.
Window just like we're at the office. So I go out and there's just like this catastrophe.
That's it,
right. No, you can find us online at www.ttbservices. That's top2bottomservices.com. Or you can get us at 301-938-9100. That's 301-938-9100.
Awesome. And I will tell you, if you guys have questions, reach out to them. You may not necessarily get Dan on the phone, but you will get somebody in his company. I've talked to most of them over there, and all of them are helpful. All of them are professional. Definitely a resource. No question about it.
I appreciate it. And thanks a lot for the invite.
Thank you for being here, Dan.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right. Be great, everybody.
See you guys.